Welcome into the Davis Football Show, everyone. My name is Nick Davis, and we're here with my brother Rob in the Davis Studios. Thank you so much for listening today. We are going to be covering all things football for you sports fans. This is the DFS. All right. Hey, how you doing today, Rob?
I'm doing all right. Excited to get the show finally kicked off.
Yeah, what better way to kick it off than touching on every single NFL team in what we're going to call the state of the franchise. Rob, you want to give a little rundown on what the state of the franchise is?
So basically, we're just going to go over every team, some offseason move they made so far. We still got the draft coming up, so a lot of teams still got some holes, but yeah, that's basically it.
Some of these teams have some holes that I can drive a truck through.
For real.
And some are very well put together and ready to win another Super Bowl. So, like always, I'm going to cover the NFC. Rob has the AFC. And I'm going to get this thing started with, you want to start off with the NFC North?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, I'm going to get started with the NFC North. We got the Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, Detroit Lions, and Green Bay Packers. The Bears lost a number of guys: Taylor Gabriel, Leonard Floyd, Kwiatkowski, and Clinton-Dix are the big ones. They did replace Floyd with Robert Quinn, who I think is a big upgrade. We still have weaknesses at cornerback and safety and on the offensive line. We did have Kyle Long retire. So I think those are some areas that the Bears can definitely target in the draft to get that top-tier defense to another level. Back to being the best in the league. Going to the Minnesota Vikings, they lost their big Showtime wide receiver, Stephon Diggs. He's over at the Bills. They also lost Treadwell, who did underachieve a little bit. He's with the Falcons. They do have some holes on the defense. They lost Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes, but they do think they have their backups in place. The defense is getting older, but it still is really good. I think the Minnesota Vikings need to target wide receiver as their biggest need in the draft. Going over to the Detroit Lions, they have Rick Wagner, who they lost, who is now going to the Packers. They also signed a ton of former Patriots players that they are bringing into the New England Patriots scheme with Matt Patricia. Their biggest loss on defense has to be the Darius Slade deal with the Eagles. I think moving into the NFL draft, going after another strong cornerback is priority. They are at the top of the draft. I think Okudah is someone that they can really take. We will be getting into that mock draft next week. So their biggest need, cornerback. I also think offensive line. They do have some solid wide receivers, and Stafford will be back healthy next year. And finally, the Green Bay Packers, they did lose Jimmy Graham that came over to the Bears. I am pretty excited about that. I didn't touch on that group because I think that if they're healthy, they will be productive. They did lose Blake Martinez, who was a starting linebacker for them. I think that is an area of that they should target in the draft. They also lost Allison to the Lions. Wide receiver is another spot I think that the Packers need to target in the draft. And then they lost their offensive tackle, Bulaga, to the Chargers, who they did replace with Rick Wagner from the Detroit Lions. So overall, I think linebacker and wide receiver is the two areas that the Green Bay Packers need to target.
So you got the Packers targeting a receiver and a linebacker. There's a lot of people that think they should go after quarterback early in the draft. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a bad move. I mean, Aaron Rodgers only have a few good years left. He may be able to play till he's 43, 45 like Brady, but he's not going to be the same player at that age. Their Super Bowl window is right now. They need to go after a player to help him rather than drafting his replacement.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Aaron Rodgers got a good 3 or 4 years left, so I don't think they got to go after quarterback yet. But a team that does need to go after quarterback is the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's where we're going to start with the AFC North. All right, let's start it off with the Cincinnati Bengals. It looked like they're going to take Joe Burrow, number 1 in this year's draft. The best thing for them to do will be surround him with as many weapons and protection as they can. They still have A.J. Green, but he's on a franchise tag, so who knows how long he's still going to be with the team. They lost Tyler Eifert, but they do have John Ross and Tyler Boyd. John Ross has been a disappointment so far, but mostly because of injuries. They still have Tyler Boyd, but he's not ready to be a number one receiver yet. They made some moves to help the defense by signing Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander away from the Vikings, also adding Josh Bynes at middle linebacker. So going into this year's draft, the Bengals should make Joe Burrow as comfortable as possible in Cincinnati. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns, one of the most talented teams in the AFC, and that was before signing Austin Hooper from the Atlanta Falcons. We couldn't really see the Browns' full potential this year because they had two major problems. One was Freddie Kitchens, that they replaced with Kevin Stefanski, and the other was their offensive line. They probably had one of the worst offensive lines last year. They added John Conklin, a left tackle from the Tennessee Titans, but they're still going to have to address that in this upcoming draft. They currently have the number 10 pick in the draft, and I'll be surprised if they don't go with a tackle at that spot. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that was carried by their Super Bowl caliber defense last year. They did sign Derek Watt and Eric Ebron to go along with Big Ben that's returning from an elbow injury that kept him out of all but 2 games last year. They still have Juju Smith-Schuster, but going into this year's draft, wide receiver is their biggest need. They should look for a receiver opposite of Juju that could take the top off of defense. Another need for this team is offensive line. Their left guard Raymond Foster did retire, and all the other starters are over 30. And don't be surprised if they grab a running back to replace James Conner in the near future. The Baltimore Ravens made some changes to their defense by trading for Calais Campbell for a 5th round pick and signing Derek Wolfe while also franchise tagging Matt Judon. However, they did waive Tony Jefferson and lost Josh Bynes and Patrick Ossenmore to free agency. And that brings me to their main need in this year's draft, and that's middle linebacker and edge rusher. If a player like Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen fall to the Ravens at 28, that'll be a great fit for both of them. They'll be a day one starter. Also replacing Hall of Fame guard Marshall Yanda is a big need in this year's draft.
Man, where do I begin here? Baltimore, your favorite team. Yeah, they made some moves on defense. Pittsburgh defense is legit. Their question marks are offense. Can you imagine Cam Newton on Pittsburgh as Pittsburgh's backup to Big Ben for when he gets hurt next year? Because he's bound to. And then let me ask you this question, Rob. Joe Burrow, say Miami gives them 3 first-round picks. Are they taking it?
I don't think they will, but to me that's a smarter move because I got Tua as a better quarterback than Burrow right now. So if they could trade down and get and get Tua with multiple first-round picks, that would be huge.
Yeah, for sure. Also, the Cleveland Browns, what's up with that? There was so much hype going into that team last year. I bought an Odell jersey and returned it by week 4. I mean, so they're something else. I think they're going to take another step back from the step back they took this year.
You got to take another step back?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh is going to be better. I think Baltimore is going to be better, and I think Cincinnati is going to be better. They beat all of them. No,
but so is the Browns. The Browns are going to be better next year too.
I don't think they're going to be better.
All right. I mean, if they get Baker some more time and some better play calling, they're going to have a top 3 scoring offense, I think.
No, wait. They're about to trade Odell. No way.
Maybe trade Odell.
He's out. Trust me. All right. So, what division you want to go to next?
Let's go to the NFC East.
All right. To the NFC East. This is, by popular belief, tends to be the most popular division in the NFC because of the Dallas Cowboys. They are what everyone calls America's team. I personally don't agree with that, but we're going to start with them today. Randall Cobb is gone. He's with the Texans. Jason Witten. They definitely lost some pieces here in Dallas. Robert Quinn, he's with the Bears. Malik Collins with the Raiders. Jeff Heath, he's with the Raiders also. Dallas is in trouble. They replaced their all-pro players with Aldon Smith, who is coming out of nowhere. They also signed HaHa Clinton Dix that I do think will contribute pretty well. They also lost Michael Bennett, who is not re-signed with the team just yet, so they could bring him back. Dallas lost a number of starters, both on offense and on defense. That does not mention their all-pro center, Frederick, that just retired. So Dallas, in my opinion, is in some trouble. They're going to have to target a number of positions in the draft. I think everything outside of quarterback and running back is in play here. So good luck, Jerry. Next, I'm going to move to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this team is solid. The Philadelphia Eagles are in one of the best positions in all of football. The only player of any significance that they lost, which isn't even that significant, is Jordan Howard and Nelson Aguilar. Those two guys were starters, but they're not superstars. I think if the Eagles target a running back and a receiver in the draft, they'll be in really good shape. Now, they did lose Malcolm Jenkins to the Saints. I do think bringing in another safety is going to be important for them too, but that is something that they can find in free agency. Moving into the New York Giants, you got Eli Manning that retired. Jones already took over that starting role last year. It does look like they did not sign Ogletree back just yet. He's now with another team. It's interesting to see where they go with that route. The Giants did sign a couple linebackers to fill in that spot, but Ogletree seems to be a pretty impactful player. I'll be shocked if they don't try to bring him back. It might be a matter of money. It does look like Hamilton was also lost to the Chiefs. The Giants are going to need some secondary help. They did bring in Bradbury from the Carolina Panthers, so it'll be interesting to see where they go with the number 4 spot. Okuda can be an option. I do also see them going offensive line. I do see that as a weakness on this team. It also could go edge to a pass rush. Finally, I'm going to wrap up the NFC East with the Washington Redskins. This is one of my favorite teams going into this year. Not because I've always been a fan. I just am a fan of Ron Rivera, Mr. Riverboat Ron, and Jack Del Rio. I think the two of them are going to make this team into a true contender. I think their defense is going to be solid. Hot take, top 5 in 2020. They did lose a ton of pieces. It seems like every cornerback that was on the roster last year is now gone. They did bring in some new pieces. They signed a ton of free agents, and they still have cap space to gamble. They brought in Kyle Allen from the Panthers, and Cam is out there on the block still. It'll be interesting to see if Rivera doesn't bring him in to work with Haskin. I'm very excited with how McLaurin played last year. Him being in his second year can be a true number 1 receiver. And if Geis and Peterson come back as fired up as they were last year, this team is going to be very difficult to keep out of the playoffs.
Yeah, the Cowboys are going to be a mess this year. Do you think there's a better chance of the Cowboys trading Dak or signing him to a long-term deal?
I think it's a better chance of them moving off him. I think that there's too much broken already for them to stick with him. I think there's guys on the market like Cam that can come in right now and be not so much better, but equivalent to Dak. But I also think that if they take someone high, like a Jordan Love, Herbert, I mean, are they going to be worse than Dak? I don't know.
Yeah, Dak should just sign a franchise tag because if he end up holding out, they're going to just move on. And I don't know if he's going to get his money that he'll get with Dallas.
Yeah, but if he doesn't sign if he does sign the franchise tag, they can just move on anyway after next year. Because like you said, I think they're going to be worse next year. So his stock is higher now than next year if they come off a bad year.
Okay, yeah, but what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't sign a franchise tag and the Cowboys go sign like Cam? What's that going to do for this year?
I think they'll eventually trade him where he'll then sign with the team and get paid.
If he doesn't sign a franchise tag, they can't trade him.
True. He played
and
a
I don't
hand
know what
that
team
didn't work out, and now he needs to fold him.
Yeah, I don't know what team will sign him right now to a deal that would be bigger than the Cowboys offering.
I got Dallas being last in that division in 2020.
Ooh. Yeah, all depends
Hot
on that
take.
quarterback position.
I think the Redskins defense is going to be legit. New York's going to be better, and I think Philly's going to take the division.
I think you lit a high in Washington. They're going to be easy to keep out the playoffs.
I don't know. I believe in Riverboat Ron.
If Haskins or Kyle Allen's at quarterback, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah. We'll figure that out. But Chase Young is coming. Just know that. All right, let's move on. We got the AFC
The
East.
Buffalo Bills made one of the biggest splashes this offseason by trading for Stephon Diggs. The Bills don't have any huge needs going into the draft, but after losing Frank Gore, it only leaves them with Devin Singletary as their lead back. And with his small frame, I don't see him as an every down back. If they could get a back like J.K. Dobbins in the second round, that would be a great fit. Also, corner and pass rush would be ideal. They replaced the loss of Shaq Lawson with Mario Edwards, but both of their pass rushers are over 30, so some youth would be great there. The Miami Dolphins were busy in free agency, signing Byron Jones, Shaq Lawson, Jordan Howard, and Kyle Van Noy, but their main target is a quarterback. There's rumors of them wanting to trade up to the number 1 spot to get Joe Burrow, but a better and more realistic option will be to get Tua by trading up or hoping he falls to the number 5 pick. After trading away key pieces last season in Minkah Fitzpatrick and Kenyon Drake, the Dolphins were looking to tank for Tua, but even after ending up with the number 5 pick, they could still get their man. The New York Jets loaded up on an offensive line this free agency by signing Connor McGovern and George Fant. Their biggest hit was Robbie Anderson leaving for the Carolina Panthers. They did sign Bashard Perriman, but that only leaves Perriman and Crowder as the top 2 receiving options. Going into the draft, they need to get another weapon for Sam Darnold. Their top 3 targets should be Lamb, Judy, or Ruggs. Whatever receiver falls to them, that's who they should pick up. Tom Brady leaving for the Tampa Bay Bucks was a huge loss to the New England Patriots, leaving them with no franchise QB and only Stidham and Brian Hoyer on the roster. The Patriots need playmakers at receiver and tight end. That was the biggest issue last season, with Edelman dealing with injuries for most of the season, and last year's first-round pick, N'Keal Harry, finishing with only 12 catches for 105 yards. Linebacker is also a position of need for the Patriots. After losing Jamie Collins and Kyle Van Noy, they should be looking to add a linebacker early in this year's draft.
Man, I am in awe of what Flores and those boys are doing down in Miami. Miami is my sneaky good team. I see this team in the playoffs. I think Buffalo's going to win the division. I think Buffalo's the real deal. But I think Miami got some juice.
What do you got them doing in the draft?
I got the Dolphins taking a quarterback with their first pick. I don't know if it's going to be a 2, 3, 5. It's going to be within the top 5, and they're going to take a quarterback. I'm not sure if it's going to be Tua or it's going to be Herbert, but they're going to take one of them. And they're going to take that pick without trading their other 2 picks. So they are going to roll with 3 first rounds and their 2 seconds in 2020. And they're going to bring 5 quality starters onto a team that is already loaded by their moves in free agency.
I wouldn't say loaded. I don't see them as a playoff team yet. I mean, they got a lot of young players.
Loaded. These boys may just have the best cornerback duo in the league.
You're crazy. They don't even got the best cornerback duo in the AFC.
Now, they need a safety. They got some solid pieces on defense. Their offenses, they got pieces in play.
I don't think they got a chance to make them playoffs. Either they're gonna take Tua or Herbert, and if either one start, they're not gonna make the playoffs. No way.
Isn't it crazy? We're on the AFC East and we haven't even brought up New England yet.
Yeah, I mean their golden child left them.
Does Tom Brady mean that much, or are they done for without him?
It depends who's quarterback. If they start Stidham, they don't got a chance in the AFC. But if they bring in a guy like Cam Newton or Andy Dalton, someone like that, Jameis, then they got a good chance.
You think that's the move with Belichick?
I don't know what Belichick is going to do, honestly. I don't think no one does. But maybe they'll take a quarterback in a draft, start him. Who knows?
All right, well, we can only wait and see.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, what division you want to hit next?
NFC South.
NFC South.
All right, we are going to move into the NFC South. This might just be the best division in football right now. I'm going to get started with the Carolina Panthers. They lost almost their entire team. They lost both quarterbacks, Cam Newton and Kyle Allen, wide receiver Chris Hogan, tight end Greg Olsen, multiple offensive linemen, and then almost their entire defense. Their entire D-line is gone. Both starting corners are gone. The safeties, it only looks like Matt Rule is coming in and bringing in his whole new squad, which is the way I would do it. They're all pro linebacker Luke Kuechly retired also. So where do they go with the number 7 pick? I mean, they can They can go a number of ways. I think bringing in Teddy Bridgewater is a great placeholder for whoever your future franchise quarterback is. I would not go quarterback this year. You just signed Teddy to 3 years. I think defensive line is going to be the biggest piece to the puzzle that you need to start filling now. So I think D-line is their biggest issue, but I also think a huge team need is in the secondary. The wide receiver group is the only constant from year to year going into 2020. So basically anything else on this team is going to be a team need. Despite that, I do see them being pretty competitive in this superpower division. Now, I'm going to jump over to the New Orleans Saints. The Saints and the Eagles, like I mentioned before, Philadelphia being one of the best put together teams. I think the Saints are in the same boat. They only lost Von Bell, A.J. Klein, and their backup Teddy Bridgewater to the Panthers. They have Eli Apple, who is not currently signed, but he could come back with them. The deal with the Raiders never went through. And for the most part, they have their entire team, and they have draft picks to spare. So I think that they can add a few more pieces, maybe sign one big free agent like a Clowney, and they're going to be, a force to reckon with like they've been for the past decade. Next, I'm going to move into the Atlanta Falcons. And now, this is another team, too, that was just in the Super Bowl a few years ago. Had a pretty disappointing year last year. They have lost a number of defensive pieces, but I think it's for the best because their defense was absolutely terrible. They did have a ton of injuries over the past few years, but losing Trufant, Campbell, and Beasley do hurt. I think they're going to need to go strictly defense in the NFL draft. They have, I think, a record 11 first-round picks starting on offense. That's unheard of. And bringing in Gurley is just, if he's healthy, it's just another all-star to that group. So I think the Atlanta Falcons offense can run with anybody. The problem is they can't stop anybody from putting up points on them. So if they can get that fixed, they're going to be very good. I'm going to wrap up the NFC South with none other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How can you not get excited with Tampa Bay? They brought in Tom Brady. They bring back almost their entire defense, Ndamukong Suh and all the young players around them. They are sneaky good on defense. And on offense, they have all the firepower you can want if you're Tom Brady. The only thing is offensive line and running back. Those are their two biggest team needs. And they got a 14th pick in the draft that they're going to go O-line with. And then they got a second rounder that you're going to have so many options for at running back. So if they go O-line and running back round 1 and round 2, maybe sign a couple free agents here on the offensive line, this is going to be a team that I got in the playoffs, especially with that extended bracket. So that is how I'm going to wrap up the NFC South.
NFC South is a powerhouse division. I mean, it's a good division, but I wouldn't call them a powerhouse.
They got some killers in that division this year.
I think the AFC North is a better division. That's a real powerhouse division, if you ask me.
The NFC North doesn't have 3 MVP QBs in it.
Those 3 MVPs are way past their prime and probably be out the league in 2 years.
Yeah, but that experience is what makes them great.
Okay, I mean, if you think Tom Brady's going to be MVP caliber, don't get your hopes up.
I can see 3 of these teams in the playoffs next year.
I could see the Saints being in a winning division, but the Bucs may be able to squeeze in. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it all depends on this offseason and how they're able to get on the same page.
All right, let's go into the AFC South. Continues to make bad trades for the Houston Texans by trading away their superstar receiver DeAndre Hopkins and only getting back a second-round pick in the running back with a big contract in David Johnson. But they added Randall Cobb and Brandon Cooks to go along with Kenny Stills and Will Fuller, so there's still plenty of speed and talent at that position. Their biggest need is linebacker and cornerback. J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless are both starting to show signs of aging, and adding a young rotation piece to that D-line is a great option with that first pick. The Colts made some questionable moves this offseason, bringing in a 38-year-old Phillip Rivers to take over the offense, also giving up their first-round pick to trade for DeForest Buckner, a D-tackle paying him $21 million a year over the next 4 seasons. Going into the draft, the biggest need is still a second option behind T.Y. Hilton. With a deep wide receiver class this year, they won't have trouble finding one in the later rounds. The Colts made some questionable moves this offseason, bringing in a 38-year-old Phillip Rivers to take over the offense, also giving up their first-round pick to trade for DeForest Buckner, a D-tackle paying him $21 million a year over the next 4 seasons. Going into the draft, the biggest need is still a second option behind T.Y. Hilton. With a deep wide receiver class this year, they won't have trouble finding one in the later rounds. After trading away Nick Foles to the Chicago Bears, it's time for the Gardner Minshew era to begin in Jacksonville. They held on to an unhappy Yannick Ngakoue and added Tyler Eifert, but there's still a lot of holes on his team. Even though taking one of the top offensive tackles with the 9th pick will be the safest option, or taking one of the top receivers will really help out Minshew, but their biggest need is on the defensive side of the ball after trading away Jalen Ramsey, A.J. Bouye, and Calais Campbell. I could see him taking a corner or a D lineman with that first pick.
Yeah, Jacksonville is an absolute dumpster fire. I think that they need to get out of Jacksonville. I think nobody wants to play there. They need to move that entire franchise somewhere else and make it somewhere that people want to go. I think that also questionable with Phillip Rivers. I think Indy's in a spot where they got to win now. How is that questionable?
Because there's a lot of quarterbacks that's better than him that's available in free agency right now.
Cam wasn't available then, though.
Yeah, but Jameis was.
You think Jameis is better than Rivers?
Yeah, definitely. At this age, yeah.
Next year, not long term. Next year.
Yes.
I think this is Rivers' shot to run for a Super Bowl. And let's shift gears to Bill O'Brien real quick. That's the questionable guy in the room.
Oh yeah, Bill O'Brien been questionable.
Can we all agree that he doesn't have a clue what he's doing?
Yeah. I don't know what goes through his mind making trades, trading Clowney last year for only a second.
I think he's a good coach and he does have a good understanding on what's going on, but I think he's just so emotional and makes so many decisions off of emotion that it doesn't work in any business, let alone football, when you're dealing with millions of dollars.
Yeah, if they don't win the division this year, I feel like they're going to have to make a change, at least in the front office, to maybe keep him as coach, but he can't be making the decisions.
Right. So you got Tennessee coming out of here?
No, I got the Texans.
What? We just talked about how they were trash.
They're not. I wouldn't say trash. I just don't think they're ran good. They still got
D-Hop
Deshaun
is
Watson.
Gone.
Yeah, but they got Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb, Will Fuller, and Kenny Stills.
Who all are injury prone. All of them.
Okay, who does Tannehill got?
If you have those 4 as your starting 4, you're going to need a backup 6.
No, you don't. That's one of the best receiver groups in the league.
That's another hot take that we'll dive into at a later time.
Okay.
I think Tennessee is one piece away from being a Super Bowl contender.
They had a good run last year, but I don't think they could repeat it.
All right, last but not least, it is time to bring it out west. Bag it out west. Sling it out west with the NFC West. We got the Arizona Cardinals. It's who I'm going to start off with because I am such a fan of Kyler Murray. I think he's the real deal. Russell Wilson 2.0. They did lose David Johnson, which, would never been the same ever since he came back. And we picked up D-Hop, one of my favorite wide receivers in the league. Put him with Larry Fitz. Man, I'm so excited to watch this offense play. They still got the Kenyon Drake at the running back. O-line is a weakness. That's somewhere that they need to draft with that first-round pick. But I think offensively, if they go O-line round 1 in the draft, it's going to be pretty solid. On the defensive side, they need some work. They really need to look at the draft to fix a number of those pieces. Maybe sign a key free agent or 2. Maybe someone like a Clowney can get there as well. And Arizona, winning 7 games last year, it's going to be a sneaky good team here in the very competitive NFC West. Now going over to the Seattle Seahawks, They do have a number of pieces that they lost as well. A lot on O-line because I think they're trying to correct that issue. They're known historically to have a pretty rough O-line. They do. They have lost Marshawn because I don't think he's going to be coming back. I think he was just an emergency filler for the time being. And then Clowney, they just don't have the money, it seems like, to keep him around. So they are going to need to go pass rush in the draft as a team need. I think their other need is O-line. Metcalf seemed to be playing great with Lockett and Moore, and their running backs are pretty solid as well. It seems like whoever takes the ball from Russell just ends up putting forth extra effort, and Seattle is definitely a team that just wants to run it down your throat. Next, we have the LA Rams, who, were just in the Super Bowl not too long ago. They had a pretty disappointing fallback year last year. They did lose Fowler to the Falcons, Littleton to the Raiders. They also lost Clay Matthews, who isn't signed yet, Eric Weddle to retirement. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see where the Rams go from here because they don't have draft picks. They traded one of them for Fowler and the other one for the Jaguars for Ramsey. And that really affected them draft capital-wise. And for a team with no cap space and limited draft picks, it's going to be tough to fill those missing pieces. And finally, we're going to conclude with the NFC representatives in the Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers. Just like the Eagles and the Saints, I think the 49ers are one of the best put-together teams, top to bottom, and only need to address a few areas. They lost Garrett Selleck to retirement, the tight end, and also their other tight end to the Giants. They lost DeForest Buckner to a trade with the Colts, but they picked up the 13th overall pick in the draft for him. So I wouldn't even consider that a loss. Emmanuel Sanders is now with the Saints and a cornerback, Verrett. So overall, their secondary is still pretty good. I think Sanders did open up that offense a little bit, so I think going wide receiver with that 13 pick, like a Henry Ruggs, a Jerry Jeudy, or CeeDee Lamb, is going to be important for that offense. Once you pick that up, I think their offense is put together very well. They may need some O-line help because they are aging and looking for a solid backup now for the future could be important. But at the tight end position, they seem to be pretty good. Also at D-line, I will think going Kinlaw 13 isn't a bad idea, or Derek Brown if he's still there to replace Buckner. But overall, I think that their defense is very well put together, and they can find some people in the later rounds.
To me, the 49ers, they're the best team in the NFC. They just got to give one more receiver behind Deebo Samuel, in front of Deebo Samuel, and that's a tough team to beat.
You think they're a receiver away from winning it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think the West is loaded. Both AFC and NFC. The Super Bowl both came out of West teams, and I think that the Chargers are going to be legit. The Raiders are going to be legit. The Broncos are going to be legit. And then you got Arizona. That's going to be the real deal this year. And then you got the Rams and Seahawks that are top-notch too. I think the West is loaded.
Yeah, the West in both conferences, they both got solid teams.
Yeah, I like Kyler Murray a lot.
Me too.
I'm going to get his jersey this year. I think he's going to be something special.
Yeah, especially with D-Hop coming over. They're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, what do you think about the Seahawks?
As long as they got Russell Wilson, they're still championship contenders. It'll be really good if they bring Clowney back. If not, they have to draft one in the first round.
Okay, Rob, let's wrap up here with the AFC West.
The Denver Broncos are my sleeper team in the AFC. While losing Chris Harris, they were able to add A.J. Bouye and Jarrell Casey on the defensive side of the ball, and Melvin Gordon to that offense that was playing well down the stretch with Drew Lock. Going with the receiver in the first round will give Drew Lock another weapon alongside Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton. But taking a tackle or a corner in the first round are also good options if all top three receivers are off the board. The LA Chargers have a Super Bowl ready roster, and the only thing they're missing is a quarterback. They're most likely taking one in the first round, either Tua, Love, or Herbert. Some smaller needs are at offensive line. They did add Brian Bulaga to the group, but they could still use some depth in the interior. Also, adding a third receiver will help out whoever is under center this season. But adding a veteran QB and using that top pick on a skill position will make them a top team in the NFL. Defending Super Bowl champs Kansas City Chiefs didn't make too many moves this offseason. They did lose Kendall Fuller, but they were able to re-sign Bashaud Breeland at cornerback. Even with re-signing Breeland, I think that's what they'll look for early in this year's draft. They also tagged Chris Jones, but it's unlikely they'll be able to work out a long-term deal with him, so that'll be a huge hole they'll need to fill in the future. The Las Vegas Raiders added much-needed help to their defense by signing Corey Littleton and Jeff Heath, but there's still a lot of work to be done with this roster. Without a real number one receiver, they can target one with either of their first-round picks. Also, help at corner or safety is much needed. Some people think Carr isn't the answer at QB, but with 3 years left on his deal, I think he stays put for now.
All right, my first question for you comes out of Las Vegas for the Raiders. Knock on wood if you're with me. All right, so is Carr the starting QB?
Yeah, I don't see what else they're going to do. I don't think that a team would trade for him. I don't think, unless I don't think they get the value that he's worth. So I think they're better off just keeping him. We got 3 years left on his contract, so I don't see the point of.
They signed Mariota to be the highest paid backup in the league.
Exactly, to be a backup.
They're going to draft Love, and they're going to move on Carr.
That's a possibility. Just I don't know why, because Derek Carr's so good. He was a couple weeks away from winning an MVP. Like, what was that, 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah, you got good points there. Let's talk about the Chiefs real quick. What do they need to do to run it back?
They need just stay healthy, honestly. I mean, they already got most of their roster from last year, so if they just stay healthy, they got a good chance of repeating.
Okay. And I know you mentioned the Chargers moving up to get a quarterback. Or I know you mentioned the Chargers going to go get a quarterback. Do they sit there at 6, pick 6 and take whoever's there, or do they move up and get their guy? And who's their guy?
I would like them to move up and get Tua, because Tua with that roster, might be the third best team in the AFC.
Ooh, that's a hot take there.
Hot take.
Real hot. That's real hot. We need like an alarm that goes off whenever a hot take is said.
Yeah, we do.
So next week we're going to get into a mock draft, which I'm pretty excited about. I'm going to do the NFC picks. Rob's going to do the AFC picks, and we are going to allow trades, but you can only trade with the opposite conference, which is going to make it exciting. He can't just switch Miami and the Chargers pick just because he feels like it, because they're both in the NFC. He's going to have to trade with me to get up to number 3 with the Lions, or to get up to number 4 with the Giants. It should be pretty fun. That's a little sneak peek. That concludes our state of the franchise. I think it's only fair to give you all an idea on where the current rosters stand right before we move into future episodes and all the moves that are going to happen given the draft and beyond. So, Rob, you got anything to say as we wrap the segment up?
No, I mean, I'm excited to get on these power rankings.
Okay. All right. So next we're going to touch on the power rankings, which is, I'm sure is going to be some hot stuff in here. We're going to take the 5 best teams in each conference. Again, I'm taking NFC. Rob has the AFC. Do you want to go first here, bro?
Yeah. Let me go first this one. Even after trading DeAndre Hopkins, they still got Deshaun Watson, one of the best QBs in the NFL. So I think he's going to win the division. Record around like 11-5, 12-4.
You are crazy.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's a little high. Maybe 10-6, 11-5 at the most.
Crazy. They are not a top 5 team. Bill O'Brien don't know what he's doing.
He knew what he was doing last year. They had a 24-point lead in Kansas City.
On accident.
On accident. That don't happen on accident. But, yeah, I got the Texans coming in number 5. What do you got?
I got number 5, my Chicago Bears. They're injury-prone last year. The offensive line and running game really held back the entire team. With a healthy team making some moves on offense, I think that they can be some real contenders. They're going to win the division. They're going to be better than Green Bay. They're going to be better than Minnesota. And they're going to get back. They were 12-4 2 years ago with Trubisky just learning the offense. I mean, whether it's Trubisky or Foles starting, I think they're going to be even better than that. They're going to be one of the top teams in the league.
So is Foles going to be starting or is Trubisky going to be starting?
All right, so here's the deal. Mitch can play. He's not there. It's a handful of elite quarterbacks in the league. All right, majority of the guys are average, and they need pieces around them to work. They need a running game to work, and if you don't have that, everyone's going to fail. I mean, Foles failed everywhere outside of Philly, so I think it goes the same way. Now, what's going to happen here is Foles is going to be there to support and push, and if Trubisky struggles, like he's shown to in times, then Foles is going to replace him, and we have him there. But I do think Mitch is going to be the starter, and I think he's going to start the year and play up until he either gets hurt, and if he gets hurt and Foles go on a run the way he did in Philly, they're going to keep him in to run the rest of the year, and we're going to move on from Mitch. But if Mitch shows signs of improvement, which I truly believe he could, he's going to be the guy moving forward, and he's going to be a good starting quarterback. He's not going to be a Tom Brady with MVP type caliber seasons, but he needs help around him, and I think the Bears are going to put him in the place to succeed.
This is how it's going to happen for the Bears. Mitch is going to start. He's going to do horrible. Then they're going to put Foles in. They got a chance. They'll probably make the playoffs, but I don't see him as a top 5 team.
They're at number 5. Let's move on.
All right, my number 4 team, we got the Buffalo Bills, a defensive-led team. They traded for Stephon Diggs. That's going to help with the offensive lot. They still need a running back, but another year with Josh Allen getting better, they're going to be a dangerous team.
I agree with that 100%. They do have Singletary there. I think that he can be a legitimate option.
Yeah, Singletary, he's good, but he's tiny, so I think they need a bigger back to help with that workload.
Right. You could probably find that in the later rounds of the draft or probably in free agency as well. But yeah, I think the Bills I think they're going to win that division.
Yeah, me too.
All right, number 4 for the NFC, I got Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tom Brady makes them an instant contender, but they were sneaky good last year too. On defense, they had the worst starting field position in the league as a defensive unit, so that's automatically going to improve without Jameis there, giving the other team the ball. And they're going to the defense is young also. They got a lot of young starters that are only going to be better next year based on experience. And they re-signed their key pieces back. I think they're 1 or 2 players away on defense from being really, really good. And their offense, was putting up points last year with Jameis. They're going to continue to put up points with Brady. Scoring points was never the problem there.
I feel some disrespect towards Jameis. What do you got?
Brady's the better quarterback.
What do you got Brady's touchdown to interception ratio?
Brady's the better quarterback, period.
I don't know about this year.
All right, number 3. I'll continue. You go. Number 3.
My number 3 team in the AFC, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got Big Ben coming back. They got that Super Bowl defense. I think they're going to be a real dangerous team.
Big Ben is washed up.
I mean, you can't say that until he plays.
What is he, like 300 pounds now?
I mean, he got time to lose weight.
I do think the Pittsburgh's defense is a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, they almost made the playoffs last year with Doug Hodges and Mason Rudolph. So
you're absolutely right. I think that they should scrap all their backups and sign either Cam or Jameis to back up Ben because he's bound to get hurt, and you need a legitimate starter there. That's the team that needed to sign Mariota to be the highest paid backup in the league.
I never sleep on Big Ben. Big Ben gave me nightmares for years. He's not done till he retired to me.
True. All right, so number 3 for me. So these next 3 teams in the NFC, like I mentioned in the State of the Franchise segment, are the best put together, in my opinion, in the NFC. Like when you look at their lineup, top to bottom, there's very little holes, and they're very well ran. So number 3, I got the New Orleans Saints. They have the high-power offense. Add Emmanuel Sanders to that. And then on defense,
They brought in Malcolm Jenkins. The last time he was on the Saints roster, they won the Super Bowl. I think that their defensive line is going to be better. They need to draft a linebacker, in my opinion. It'll be awesome if they can pick up like a Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray. But I think a linebacker is a position they need to target immediately in this draft.
And yeah, also I think they gotta get a backup quarterback too. They got Taysom Hill, but I don't think he's a quarterback. And Drew Brees, he missed 5 games last year. If he missed 5 games this year, they're gonna go 0-5 with Taysom Hill.
They believe in him. We'll see. I think they draft one. I don't think that they go out and get a backup. I think they draft someone like a Fromm, an Easton, one of those guys in the later rounds. Maybe even a Jalen Hurts.
I think they need a veteran backup just in case Drew Brees get hurt. They can't have a rookie man in the shit.
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater saved their season last year, and he's gone now.
Yeah, true that. Let's move on to the top 2. I'm curious to see who you got.
My number 2 team, I got the Baltimore Ravens.
I
wanted to put them number 1.
I knew it.
I can't disrespect Super Bowl champs, so I had to put the Baltimore Ravens at number 2. But they got another year. Lamar got another year of experience. They got some help on the D-line. So hopefully they can make that jump over the Chiefs this year.
Okay. You're going to be pretty surprised with my second pick, my second selection, I believe, because they did not have a strong year last year, but they were the most injury-burdened team in the league, and their quarterback rose up and and fought for this team, threw the whole team on his back and said, come on, let's go. It's on me. I got the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm not even an Eagles fan like that. I just respect the ownership, the quarterback, the coach. I think that they have a lot of good things going for them. And I think that this year is going to be a big year if they can hit these pieces in the draft. And I really believe that they could.
No, I'm with you on that. I think Carson Wentz is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, so you already let the cat out the bag. You're going with the Super Bowl champs. Number 1?
Yeah, I got the Chiefs at number 1. They're bringing back most of their players from last year. So if they stay healthy, they got a really good chance at repeating.
Yeah, and I mean, almost word for word with my number 1 pick, San Francisco. They're coming off the Super Bowl. Whole team is coming back if they can stay healthy. They're going to be in pretty good shape. The only big piece they lost is Buckner, but they traded him for a first-round pick, the number 13th overall pick from the Colts. So I think that they can either go receiver there and then draft a lineman at the 31st pick or vice versa. I would recommend going Kinlaw with that first pick at 13 if he's there, and then taking a receiver in the later rounds. But I think they're a few pieces away from being right back in the Super Bowl.
All right, so I'm with you on your top 3, but the Bears and the Bucks, I don't know about putting them in instead of the Seahawks and Packers. I think you're crazy.
Yeah, the Seahawks and Packers are good too. Don't get me wrong, but I think the Packers are going to be significantly worse next year just because I think their defense isn't going to be as strong. And I think that Rodgers is just another year older. He has declined for the past 4 years in a row. And I think it's only going to get worse even if they get a better wide receiver to go with Funches, who is already trash. And then the Seahawks, that's a team that just has the will to win. They should have lost so many games last year that Russell Wilson just threw the team on his back and willed them to victory, which isn't going to happen game after game, although we've seen it last year. But I think their pass rush in secondary is too suspect for them to be in the top 5 right now.
Hold on, I want to say, so why does people, when Brady does bad, why do people say, oh, it's Brady's weapons, Brady got no weapons, but when Rodgers got no weapons, it's, oh, Rodgers getting old?
Good question. I just don't like Rodgers being a Bears fan.
Yeah, I could tell. Rodgers, I mean, give Rodgers some weapons. He'll be.
I lost a lot of money. I lost a lot of money. So, all right. Well, that's all that we got. We will be doing the top 5 power rankings for each conference throughout the year as things change after the draft. I think that can change our rankings here. I think some free agent signings throughout the rest of the spring, going into training camp, is going to change things. And then week after week, based on how they play, we're going to update this on a weekly basis once the season starts. Thank you all for listening today. We will be back here soon with our second episode of our live mock draft. How this is going to go is I'm going to take the NFC teams, Rob is going to take the AFC teams, and we are going to be doing a mock draft of the entire first round with trades. And the kicker is you can only trade with the opposite conference. So Rob has to approve my trades, and I have to approve his. So I'm really excited about that, and tune into our next episode to hear all about that live mock draft. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Davis Football Show. Again, thank you so much. Rob, you got anything?
Thank you, everyone, for listening. You can follow us on Twitter, where we'll be answering any of your questions you have for us right here on the show. Also, check out our YouTube, where we'll have plenty of content up there for you guys very soon. Thanks again for listening to the DFS. See you next time.